This episode of Digital Photography Cafe is brought to you by Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool for your camera, and by Daisy Grip, for a child's smile for a photographer's camera.
Welcome to the Digital Photography Cafe. I'm Trevor Current, your digital marketing guy.
And I'm Joseph Christina, your professional photographer.
So grab a latte, pull up a chair, and join us as we chat about the art and business of photography.
So hey everybody, welcome back to the show. Last week we talked about the 3 C's of positive subject interaction, photography fair use, and Twitter's new website widgets. If you haven't listened to last week's show, I encourage you to do so. You can find it on iTunes, the popular Stitcher and TuneIn radio apps, or simply head over to the website, digitalphotographycafe.com, and listen online.
So Joe, we are back, episode 71. How you doing, man?
71. I am doing pretty well.
Yes, me too, especially after the big iPhone 5 announcement this week. I'm excited.
I know, finally.
Finally.
So we can finally get rid of our, 3GSs that we have now.
Yes. I've had phone envy. My wife has the 4S, and I've had phone envy for quite some time now. And
right.
Now it's my turn.
I know. It's exciting. It's good.
So I'm not pre-ordering though, man. I checked out this whole pre-order deal, and you got to wait an extra week to get it. It's like 2 weeks if you pre-order, or you go to the store and you get it next week.
Right, I get it. And they do it on purpose because they really want people to form lines in front of Apple Store. That's what, creates the buzz. That's what inflates the stock. Not like it needs any kind of inflating, but it's one of those things, you put your pre-order in, you have to wait an extra week. You know what? If you don't want to go and stand in line, well, go ahead and wait a week. I mean, for me, I'm not going to buy it immediately. I'll wait a week or two. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm still going to have to figure out how I'm going to be using it the way I currently use my 3GS, because there's certain things in there that we're not going to be able to use, I don't think. So, but we'll get into that on another show. Yeah. This
new phone is nice. I mean, it's no big surprise. I mean, the photos of the phone, the dimensions and all that stuff have kind of been leaked out there for quite some time. So overall, there wasn't too much of a surprise.
Announcement. Yeah, I was really. I mean, we both followed the announcement, kind of word for word in real time. As it was kind of live blogged out there, and amazingly enough, unlike the past, most of these rumor sites and stuff, they just got it bang on this time. I mean, there was nothing that they didn't get. I mean, the 9-pin, just basically the full rundown. I mean, they were right on it. It was amazing.
Yeah. So this phone is going to run on the LTE networks, which we all had hoped. I mean, it was pretty obvious when the new iPad came out with LTE, so we knew that the next iPhone would have it too. So LTE, so what's cool about that? I mean, it's still a relatively small network coverage area, but it is expanding. But the download speeds are nuts. I mean, if you get in a good area and you can get an optimum connection, you can see up to 100 megabits download speeds. I mean, that's faster than what most people have at home.
Oh my God! Yeah, at home, I have like 6. What do you have? I mean,
I know.
Well, I mean, what do you have over there? You're on cable.
I've got 8. I mean, I have 100 available, but I don't want to pay for it. I mean, it's like ridiculous. It's
See, me with DSL, I mean, the max that they have is 6, and then you can go into some other Uverse situations, but then you have to be, you'd have to actually take a stone and be able to hit the knock, your local operations center to be able to get it. And at that point, they just need to fix that. But yeah, this is amazing. And we both, hopefully, if this works out as we're hoping, should be grandfathered into our unlimited data package. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
That would be sick. Now, I don't know if they're going to keep that unlimited for just 3G or if they're going to, grandfather us into for the LTE, but we'll see, we'll see. I hope so, because
I
that
hope
would
so.
be crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the whole reason that I've been sticking, and now this is going to be a thing, right? So if AT&T doesn't grandfather me in, I may seriously think about switching over to Verizon at that point, because where I live, Verizon definitely has a much better coverage area. Yeah. I mean, the problem is there's just more to it than that. We have a family plan. My wife's not eligible. A whole big mess of stuff. So
womp, 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 womp. Yeah. So anyways, before we get into any more of this camera stuff, let's kind of like move it into the portion that all the photography listeners are going to want to hear about. And that is the camera area of this phone. Yeah. I mean, I call it a camera now because this thing is basically a camera. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, the iPhone has been one of the #1 cameras like on Flickr and stuff for quite some time. Right. So there's no doubt. I mean, this device is something that people are carrying around and they're using it as a camera rather than carrying a point and shoot with them. So yeah, I mean, this is a legitimate camera that is also a phone.
Yeah, the best camera is the one that you have with you. That's for sure. I mean, I was driving just today and there was probably about 150 police cars on I-95 all stopped up the whole route, like for miles and miles and miles. I wouldn't have got that. My DSLR is there at home, you know. Right. I think it was an officer that passed away. They're probably doing a procession. I don't know what it was, but it was just amazing. It was they shut down the entire interstate, you know, 5-6 lane interstate for miles and miles and miles for this. So, but these are the type of images that you can't get unless you have some type of camera. What I found is amazing is, you know, the phone itself is 18% thinner, right?
Yep.
Which is good. I mean, thinner is nice. It's taller. So it's actually now a full, you know, 16:9 HD type of image when you turn it sideways, which is really cool. But with the camera itself, you know, they've actually kept the camera as good as the old one, maybe better. We'll get into that, but at a smaller size. In other words, flatter, thinner. The optic. So, which is kind of interesting how they can do that. The actual mechanism of the lens has actually been compressed.
Yeah, they had to modify a lot of the internal components of this because of the size limitations, because of the thickness and everything. So the camera has been modified. The A6 processor that this phone now has been sized accordingly to fit in this chassis, and in fact the radio chip has actually been configured to be an all-in-one now. So, and it's a smaller size. So there's only one radio now inside of it that does all the different bands instead of having multiple radios inside of it. So that's pretty interesting too.
Yeah, I mean, you still have your 8 megapixel. It hasn't went up or down. They're saying that it's better in low light than in the way the 4S is. So that's nice. I don't know what they're doing because I don't know how they're getting there, but they are what they are. It's still an f2.4. What I thought was kind of interesting is for all of you guys that do like these landscapes and you really maybe even cityscapes, and you like doing these panos. This thing will actually do in a 28 megapixel panorama.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Right? A 240-degree pano, just by kind of just smoothly sliding, you know, across the entire scene.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat.
It is cool. Yeah. I mean, with the camera app, the improved processor, you know, which is much faster, the gyroscope that's in the camera, everything works together. So the app will actually stitch the images together for you and create a pretty decent looking pano. You know, from what they're saying, I've yet to do it myself, but you know,
these are the specs that they're saying. This is what they're saying will happen.
Now, so what is this going to do for all the third-party pano apps, right? You know, we talked about this last week. You know, with Twitter and bringing some of these things in-house now having this functionality built into the camera app, are these third-party pano apps going to go by the wayside?
Yeah, it's exactly right. You know, and this is what happens as we consolidate more and more into a specific product, like Microsoft did as they moved in products and software into their actual OS. That hurt, you know, the third-party market. As Twitter now bought Tweetdeck, you know, for 40 mil, just a couple of bucks, or 50 mil, something like that. You know, back in, I think it was May of 2011, you know, now that's another, you know, kind of shot in the foot of these third parties that make this stuff, because they're bringing the stuff, you know, in-house. And the same thing with this, you know, as you move everything internal, the third parties are the ones that get hurt. But if you're the third party that is making the best whatever, you're going to get bought, which isn't a bad thing. A perfect example is with Tweetdeck. I'm sure TweetDeck was very happy to be bought by Twitter for $40 or $50 million.
Yeah, okay? Yeah, they probably weren't complaining a whole lot.
So make the
on their way to the bank.
Exactly. Make the best so that you get bought out. Now they do have FaceTime, of course, on the thing. So what's nice is on the front side you have a 1.2 megapixel as a camera side instead of the 8 on the back side.
Right.
But it also does 720p. That means that your FaceTime could be 720p at 30 frames, which is really cool. I mean, that's a great. I mean, we're going to be doing that, I'm sure.
Yeah, FaceTime in HD. You know, I mean. Yeah. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
I think it's a good thing. I don't know. It's pretty cool, though.
Yeah, it is cool. And with the faster LTE network, if you can get a good connection, I mean, you're going to be able to have a really great, face video phone call through this system, and it should look phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. And with LTE, it'll be like, Star Trek.
Right.
You basically they're there with you, and you can actually show them what you see. It's really cool. I mean, there's a lot of neat things that they went into here. But, as far as the camera goes, of course, we have, an LED flash like before, which is kind of neat.
And it works fairly well, too. I mean, the 4S works quite well.
It has a crazy light. I mean, that has a lot of punch. I mean, I haven't seen, LEDs that bright. I mean, that's a professional grade LED.
Yeah, it's bright. It's bright.
In that phone camera, let's say. Instead of camera phone, I don't know, whatever it is. So, but then also it has the facial recognition up to 10 people.
Yeah, in video really or neat. Stills, which is cool.
That's good.
And I like the tap to focus. So now people that are wanting to be a little bit more creative with their videography, let's say, you can almost do the whole pulling of focus thing that you are with DSLRs.
Sure.
So you can focus on the person in the foreground and, film them for a little bit and then tap on the person in the background. It will refocus on that person.
Right.
Which is
neat. That's just cool. It was like this forever on stills, but now you also have it in video, which everything is going to that. We discussed that a few shows back, how, pulling focus is not going to be these huge crazy apparatuses that you have to pay hundreds of dollars for to to slap onto your DSLR to pull focus. Now it's gonna start getting to a point where it's going to be internal, and they're going to be able to do it smoothly, and you're not even going to be able to notice a difference that it's not done with a professional rig to pull the focus. So and once again now you got the focus people that are the people that are creating these focus pulling apparatus. They're going to be gone too.
You're right.
So that's just, I guess, the nature of the beast.
Evolution.
That's it.
Everything evolves. Right. So and now the lens actually has what Apple's calling a sapphire crystal lens cover, which apparently is harder and more durable than the glass. Because I guess there was a lot of people complaining about scratches on their lens. So now this is improved, which will hopefully prevent a lot of these scratches.
Yeah, that they were talking about that for a bit. A lot of people, like you said, have complained about that because once you scratch the lens, now what? You got to send it back, and it's going to be expensive. And now all of a sudden you have something that, if you've been a photographer for a long time, you'll know that a scratch on a lens really doesn't make a lot of a difference, let's say, but it does reduce contrast. It does reduce the quality of the picture. And how much scratches determines how much is reduced. I mean, I've actually seen lenses that were shattered, and pictures coming out of them were slightly foggy, misty, but they were still pictures.
Really?
So because remember, the scratches or these cracks are so close to the sensor
kind of just blurs them out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It basically turns into murk, it turns into a little kind of smokiness, even though if you look at the front of the lens, you'd be like, oh my God, this thing will never work. And it works fine. So, but that's a whole nother story for another show.
Yeah.
But I mean, all in all, I'm really excited about this phone. I mean, obviously, because I'm coming from an old phone into this new, it's going to be definitely huge, absolutely.
Immensely I'm really excited. But, I mean, I'm going to be one of the guys that runs right out and gets it. I don't know if I'll wait in line on Friday. I may go the following week, like the beginning of the week or something. But I'm going to get mine right away. You know, this, like I said, this 3S is really on its last leg anyway. It's still working fine, but
right.
It's like, why wait at this point? So I really want to get it. Now, one thing I will suggest though is anybody that's interested in buying a new iPhone, really consider paying the extra $100 and getting the Apple Care for it. You know, I looked into it initially, and you know, when it was brought up, I was like, no, I'm not going to pay the $100 for it. You know, whatever. But after seeing the way my wife handled her 3S, when we came time to upgrade her to the 4S, I asked about the Apple Care and how it works. So basically, it will cover your phone for 2 years. So the 2 years that you're locked in the contract, you're covered. If you drop it in the toilet, if you crack the screen, if you drop it on the ground and it gets all scratched and mangled, or if something internally stops working or whatever, as long as you give it to your wife to use
or something like that.
Yep. As long as you have the phone, you just bring it back to them and they'll replace it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah, I mean, I've always bought you know, Apple Care with everything I buy. A lot of times I'll buy Apple refurbished items because I know that Apple stuff, you know, once it's refurbished, is basically as good as new. And then adding the money that I saved on buying the refurbished, I just add in a whole nother year to the plan, you know, to the warranty. I mean, with the Apple Care, it just works. You know, the two items that was kind of interesting with this phone is I do like that they're doing geotagging, because there's going to be a lot of talk about geotagging as this, you know, a lot of these point and shoots are doing geotagging.
Right.
It's, you know, as this, the more metadata to me, the better. It's always good to know where you took a picture, and like, for example, being able to bring in geotagging in, you know, that metadata into like Lightroom or whatnot, and be able to say, okay, I want to pull up all pictures from this latitude, longitude, or from this location, so I don't have to go search for, let's say, my Key West, you know, trip. Or, you know, a shoot that we did in Germany or something like that. And it just brings up all those pictures. So I like that whole idea of geotagging. I think it's great. And if your DSLR doesn't have geotagging, the best thing to do is to take your iPhone, take a quick pic of where you are before you take your high-end picture.
Right.
And then you can go and associate it after the fact in Lightroom with where you were. You can just basically mesh the two together.
Sure,
so that's
absolutely.
really cool.
And with iPhoto, you can have fun with the geotagging too. Dropping your pictures in there with that data, and it maps them out for you and everything. I mean, it's a nice feature. I mean, I don't know how much I'll personally use it, but I'll definitely play with it and try it out.
Sure. It also has the image stabilization, which we love. I mean, image stabilization is good. You know,
especially for video. Yeah,
especially for video. So that's really cool. You know, unlike you know, what Nokia did and put together their image stabilization fake. That was kind of all over the web. I think it was last week or this week even, where they actually faked their image stabilization. And when you look at the video and you zoom in to, I think it was like a parked car or a van or something, you look in the window, you can actually see the guy with the full suit on. You know,
like a Steadicam rig or something.
Yeah, like a full Steadicam rig, and he's following the girl on the bike or something like this. Geez. It's like, oh my god! I mean, you know, so whoever did the editing, they should just be shot or fired like on the spot. Yeah. So hopefully, it'd be good if they have some really nice, or at least decent image stabilization, because that'll definitely help.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So you know, talking about this, the iPhone. You know, we heard about this UDID hack come up. What was it, last week? Or,
it was
even the beginning of this week. Was it last week?
Yep.
Which was really kind of scary and interesting at the same time with these iPhones, right?
Yeah, this anti-sec hacking group supposedly hacked an FBI agent's laptop.
Right.
And downloaded downloaded basically, it was an Excel file that contained like 12 million plus Apple, iPhone, iPad, you know, other device user IDs, along with their passwords, their phone numbers, the address, all of the information.
So like, you know, the guy, this editor, this FBI agent should be shot or fired immediately on the spot for having, you know, millions of people's information on his laptop? Really? Is that
well,
is that
yeah,
is that the best that we got these days? I mean, this data could be in the cloud. He could be accessing it through a thin layer of something, you know. I mean, really?
Yeah, well, supposedly the FBI is denying it. So they apparently reporters talked to the FBI, they're denying it. They said it was not one of our agents that was compromised. There are some security specialists out there that are saying that it just might be a PR kind of scam for this, this hacker group to kind of get some exposure, I guess. Sure. But yeah, I mean, the hackers were saying that they released like 1 million of these kind of out in the wild to show that they had it, that this was real data, right? And that they figured that internet security should start with the government, and why not audit the FBI, and so sure. Their whole pitch was they're using this data and they can track people who have these phones and all this stuff. So of course the FBI is denying it. Do they have it? Do they not have it? Who knows?
Yeah. But. that is the security professional's nightmare. Is laptops. Yeah. They could secure networks. I mean, you could secure data centers with fingerprints, retina scans, all kinds of other stuff. But as soon as you put someone in the wild with a laptop and he's got information on there that should not be out there, and it gets compromised, it's just, that's the way it is. It's always, it's the weakest link, and we, the people, are always the weakest link. It's never, or let's say very rarely, it's the hardware or the software involved. It's always the people that make mistakes, right? That cause it. That's the same idea with the social engineering. People find passwords and whatnot all the time just by engineering people. Yep. Not by cracking systems or anything, just simply social engineering them. So that's right. Anyways, that's a whole nother topic. But I tell you what, before we get into actually some cameras and some other photography stuff, let's go ahead and hear from one of our sponsors.
Have you ever tried to photograph a child who was on the move and wouldn't settle down? A child who just wouldn't give your camera the time of day no matter what tricks you tried? If so, we have some great news for you. Introducing the Daisy Grip, your go-to tool for capturing a child's smile.
Just think of the Daisy Grip as your third hand. Just place it into your camera's hot shoe, insert the child's favorite toy or puppet, and let the smiles begin. Imagine the storytelling magic that you'll have at your disposal with a ferocious lion or a friendly monster sitting on top of your camera. For the ultimate attention getter, place your smartphone into the Daisy Grip and play the child's favorite cartoon.
With the addition of a Daisy Grip bracket, you can free up your hot shoe for a flash or wireless transmitter.
Let Daisy Grip put the space above your lens to work for you. Make this indispensable tool your new best friend. Head over to daisygrip.com/DPC to get the listener discount.
The Daisy Grip, for a child's smile, for a photographer's camera.
Right, so Joe, there was a couple new cameras announced this week. With some from Nikon, from some Sony, and so this Nikon D600 looks like an interesting camera, huh?
Yeah, there was actually a good lot of cameras that were introduced, but these two really kind of stuck out a little bit. They both have one thing in common, and what they have in common is that they're full frame. Yeah. And I have always been a proponent for full frame. I know years ago, or not even years ago, it was like last year, even where there was this really heavy debate about, APC versus, APS-C versus full frame.
Right.
And, how are things going to kind of play out? And many people were on the side of, the smaller sensor, and that, the big sensors, there's not enough room. We want compact, we want stuff small. And both of these cameras are pretty small for having full frames in them.
I know they are. They're really, this D600 is a much tighter and more compact body. And it's not all plastic either. It actually does have some magnesium alloy built into it. So like the back frame, the top of the frame, is heavier duty. I think like the bottom and the front, I think that's plastic. It really didn't say, but looking at the images, that's what it looks like. But yeah, they're able to put this full frame sensor in this smaller body. It still uses, you know, the FX sensor, you know, it uses the F mount lenses. So, you know, you're getting your full frame lenses on there too.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, for me, what, you know, I love full frame. Just, you know, one of the reasons is that you're just getting more pixels and a ton more light. You get a more milky, shallow depth of field. You have it just for me, it just reminds me of shooting, you know, in the old days with the 35 millimeter. I mean, the sensors are exactly 35 millimeter sensors, just like a piece of film. You know, I have, you know, APS-C cameras, but it still reminds me of, you know, the old days of 110, you know, where you have these little, you know, thumbnail size sensor or a thumbnail size piece of film. I mean, they're pushing these things to their limit, and I get it, but the bottom line is, you know, sometimes more is more. It's not just more just to be more. It's actually better. And
it's not even the number of megapixels, you know. I mean, 24, 20, 18. At that point, I don't think it really matters, but I think it's more about the quality of the pixel that they can put on this larger frame, which gives you a better image. It allows you to do better in lower light, less noise, you know, and the APS-Cs, I mean, they have come a long way.
Oh, yeah.
But just looking at these couple cameras that were released, they're all going full frame.
Right. Now, I tell you what, this Nikon, the D600, there's a couple of things I really like about it. I like that the back screen actually folds. So it folds down, twists, you know, turns. That's really good for shooting video, because how many times, you know, you're trying and you can't see it, or you're trying to shoot something overhead and you can't quite get it, or you're trying to shoot really low. These back end LCDs really help out a lot in those situations. So I really like that a lot, especially like if you're shooting in this glare because you're outside and the sun's hitting in a certain direction. Just flip that around. That's awesome. The other thing that I liked also is that, you know, you can buy a wireless mobile adapter for it and transfer images off the camera, which is kind of cool. I mean, I like that. And I think it goes all the way up to, it does G and N as far as speed, which is pretty decent speed. The thing is the unit is like $60, whereas to transfer pictures off a Canon, I mean, one of their transmitters is like $700. You know,
yeah,
it's just like night and day. So I really like that they're adding that type of support in there. The thing's shooting, you know, 5.5, 6, you know, full resolution frames per second. That's really good. ISO 25K. I mean, it's a really nice camera. Like it a lot. Now, the other camera that's full frame that we saw was the Sony. It's the DSC. I call it, it's just the RX1. I refer to it as the RX1. This camera is cool, and it tickles me because, you know, I'm like the retro kind of guy. I still love a nice rangefinder, and this thing looks like a rangefinder.
Yeah.
But it's full frame. It's like the size of like the X100, you know, but, you know, Fuji's product, but full frame.
Right.
Very neat.
Yeah, it is really cool. I mean, I don't know. I guess the drawback that I see to it is it's not an interchangeable lens camera. It's a fixed lens camera. It's a really nice lens. It's a 35 millimeter f2.0, and it's Zeiss glass. So I mean, it's a really nice lens. That coupled with the full frame, I mean, that's going to do some really nice images. But at the price point of $2,800. I don't know.
Right.
I'm not sure that I would want to buy a camera like that in that configuration for $2,800.
You know, I look at it as almost like a direct response to like Leica, where, you know, their cameras that are similar to this, like an M9, you know, go for $7,000.
Right.
I don't know how this is going to shoot. Is it going to be close to, you know, like a Leica? I don't know. But I can see where they're trying to position themselves. And, you know, I just say that, you know, we'll just have to see, you know, what the images look like when they come out of this. But I tell you what, you know, full frame shooting, you know, 5 frames per second with this little thing, that's nuts. Full HD, you know, really good ISO from 100 all the way up to 25K. You know, like you said, this is, you know, $2,800 compared to the D600, which is like $700, you know, and it's interchangeable. Obviously, you can snap on any lens. But I tell you what, I do like this camera because it reminds me of the old range finders. I wish they would have this specific camera with a full frame that's, you know, interchangeable. I think it would be so much better. But this is actually what I've been wanting for a very long time. A full frame sensor in a small, compact body.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I like the form factor. I like the idea of the full frame. I wish it was interchangeable lens. There is no optical viewfinder on it. It's only the LCD on the back, which is 3 inch, so it's plenty big enough. But how fast is that going to be? Is it going to refresh quick enough? You know, in bright light, how is it going to work? As far as I know, I don't believe it tilts. It may be fixed. I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah, I was going to guess it's probably fixed.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. You know, because again, on this small compact body, is there enough room to have a tilting monitor? I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I like the idea of it, but I'd like to see the next generation, or you know, 2 generations from now.
Yeah, I think Sony is on the right path.
Yes.
And, you know, like I kind of prefaced, you know, before we started talking about these cameras, I do believe, you know, I've said this over a year ago, full frame will be where everything goes. And the sensors will continuously get bigger and it won't get smaller. You know, the APS-C sensor is a great sensor. But, you know, maybe in the DSLRs of the future, maybe kind of like video cameras, maybe we'll be shooting RGB and we'll have 3 sensors in the camera. Maybe we'll have, you know, 3 specific sensors, APS-C sensors, you know, for each spectrum, you know. So you have blue, you have red, you have green, and then, of course, you have your black. So, I mean, that could be a possibility of keeping them small, but you'd still need 3 at that point. You could probably layer them. But, you know, if that's not the way, I'm going to say just full frame is just easy. I mean, it's just, they've been around for a while. You're not going to shrink it. So you're going to have to shrink all of the internals. But look, if Apple could take their iPhone and shrink these internals, I mean, they actually did a breakdown of this camera and they showed the inside of the camera. If we can find it, we'll put it up in the show notes. It's very cool. Apple's never done this before, but you can see the inside of the phone. But anyways, you will see how tight and how tidy, you know, that phone is. They can do that with these cameras. They're bulky and they don't need to be. And just because the sensor, you know, is 1 inch by, you know, 1.25 inches or whatever, that doesn't mean that you need a 6-inch camera that's the size of, you know, that's huge. You don't, it's not necessary.
Right.
That, you know, they need to go back to the drawing board and start making these internals smaller.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree. I think the way of the future is probably going to be more of full frame sensors and larger. Probably even moving in closer to medium format sensors. I mean, the technology of production is coming way down. They're able to produce these things at a cheaper price. You know, you're starting to see bigger sensors in more low-end consumer models, you know, putting the APS-C sensors in cameras when before they had the postage stamp size ones from the point and shoots, you know. So everything is starting to change. I think we are going to see that migration where everything eventually is going to be full frame. So that kind of goes back to the idea of glass and buying lenses. You know, we get questions all the time about buying lenses. And yeah, maybe it makes sense, rather than buying glass that's specific for the crop sensor, buy that full frame glass.
Absolutely.
You know, because then as you upgrade your bodies, change things out down the road, you can still use the glass that you spent all this money on.
Right, absolutely. And a lot of times you can use that, you know, the full frame type of glass on a camera that is a crop.
Right, but not the other way around.
But exactly, but you can't use it the other way around. Now, of course, we shoot video, and there are some specialty lenses that we buy that are specifically crop lenses. Right. But everything else that we buy is always a full frame. Right. That's just, and I think it makes good sense. It's and it's just a wise move to at least say that that your lenses have have some legs to them. There'll be some longevity to having them. So anyways, I like the idea. I like these two cameras. I think they're great. They're in two different markets completely. But I think Sony, by having this full frame inside a really small, tight, compact, I think is the way of the future. And I think that they're getting it right. They're definitely getting it right.
Yeah, I agree.
So, all right, listen, before we get any further, let's go ahead and hear from one more of our sponsors.
Are you frustrated with slightly out of focus images when you know your autofocus spot was dead on? It's simply not your fault. From manufacturer to manufacturer, and even lens copy to lens copy, there are slight variances to the exact spot where light is being focused onto the sensor. Finally, there's a product that allows you to compensate for those variances and make sharper images immediately. Focus Pyramid, the autofocus lens calibration tool, is an absolute must for every photographer. If you want to make the sharpest images possible, then you need to take control over your camera's focusing system. With the Focus Pyramid, you can calibrate all of your lenses on your lunch break. The Focus Pyramid makes lens calibration quick and easy at an affordable price. So give your lenses a new lease on life and take your photography to the next level. Head over to focuspyramid.com/DPC and get an additional 10% off just for being a show listener.
So on last week's show, we had kind of mentioned that we were going to be going into Photo Plus Expo in New York City this year. It starts October 24th to the 27th. This is always a great trade show. It's huge. I mean, it's at the Javits Convention Center right in Midtown Manhattan, and they get like 26,000 people that show up over the course of a few days. I mean, it's nuts how big this place is.
Huge show. I love New York City. It's for me, I'm in Florida. I love to get back whenever I can. It's definitely a great excuse, and to be able to mingle with,
it is a great excuse. It's a great excuse to go to New York and, have fun in what we do for a living. Right. But then have fun in a fantastic city where there's just so much to do, so much to see.
It's great. I tell you what. So while, our coverage we're kind of deciding how we're going to cover this, and what we're going to do is we're going to be interviewing, and we kind of talked about this last week. We're going to be interviewing folks. We're going to be talking with people, companies, and all kinds of things. But all of our coverage this year is going to be seen now in many, many different places. Instead of just like on YouTube or on the website or whatnot, we're now going to be on your TV. You're going to be able to find us in smart TVs. As well as TiVo. We're going to have our own app in TiVo. You'll be able to find us there.
That's
amazing.
That's pretty big and exciting news there. I mean, we've been working on the TiVo deal for a little while, and that looks really good. You're going to be able to get us on TiVo.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones that are coming down the pipe on the TVs that you're going to be able to see us. But for right now, it's going to be the smart TVs as well as TiVo. So that's awesome. On the audio side, of course, we're in TuneIn. As well as Stitcher Radio, and of course the Zune Marketplace. So those three, we're going to be there. You'll be able to listen to us in your car or wherever you are, wherever you get your, let's say your audio data, your audio shows.
Right.
And then of course you can subscribe. So you can go through RSS or iTunes. We love for you to go through iTunes, because then we can kind of track to see how many people are listening and whatnot. So
plus we can send you the shows automatically. You don't have to oh wow, I didn't get back to the website to listen to this week's show, and I mean, it just comes to you automatically.
Absolutely. So we have some pretty interesting sponsorship opportunities, right?
Yeah. So last year, what we did is we had a couple different opportunities that we offered out to companies and to photographers who were looking to gain exposure for their businesses. Our show is going to reach a lot of people. I would say tens of thousands of people, right? So we want to give you guys the opportunity to get in front of some of these people. So if you're a company that makes a product or provides a service to photographers, this is a great opportunity. If you're a photographer who maybe runs workshops or does classes and you want to get your name out to the photography community to let them know about you and what you offer, we have 3 different plans that we're doing this year. So, and last year we only had the 2, but so right now with our first plan, you can get just like a simple banner ad on the site, right by the video player, right where everybody's going to be coming to watch. That banner ad will also be on currentphotographer.com, so you kind of get a twofer there. And we're going to put you in our Friends of the Show page. So it's a good directory that we're building of all the fans, you know, sponsors, companies that we work with. We're building that directory, and it's great for, you know, the Google SEO. I mean, it's great for the link backs.
Right. Then, of course, we have the middle plan, I guess, where we have a 60-second commercial, which we're going to be putting through. Yep. And that video, which is kind of interesting, will be fully syndicated with many different websites, right?
Yeah, it's going to be on a bunch of partner websites, again, on Digital Photography Cafe. It's going to be on Current Photographer. It's going to be, you know, on... I can't even remember how many partners we have right now, but a bunch.
It's a bunch.
Plus, it's going to be on the TVs, on the big TVs, you know, the smart TV, TiVo, you know, all of these other TV apps. So the video alone is getting all over there. But we're also going to do an audio version of the ad, which will run down through the audio stream. So you'll be able to hit both the video and the audio markets.
Yeah, that's awesome. Then, of course, we're going to be putting you through social media as we do, because we know how important social media is today. And, you know, we'll be putting out a couple of tweets for you each day to about 40,000 people that follow us and the show and whatnot. So that's pretty large. It's
a lot of
big
people.
And that's 40,000 people that are not only tech savvy, but are also photographers, amateur photographers, all the way up to pros.
Yeah, so, exactly. I mean, we don't have the spam bots following us.
Exactly.
So when we tweet, I mean, it's getting out there to photographers. So yeah, I mean, 40,000, you know, photographers, that's a lot of people. Plus all the people who are viewing and listening to the show. So that's a lot as well. And we're going to give you a lower third ad in our video content. So as we're doing our interviews at the booths and chatting with photographers, across the bottom of the screen there, we're going to have those pop-up lower third ads. And it's going to rotate through all of our sponsors during the course of it. So you'll get ongoing exposure in all of our videos that we create. Exactly.
And then we have, of course, the new opportunity that we came up with just as of late, which is a 20-30 minute. We call it more of like an educational commercial.
Right.
Not an infomercial. It's an educational commercial. And what it is we basically will educate the public about your product, widget, thing, service, whatever it is, with a soft sell. And if you want to give a coupon or something, that's fine, but it's not really necessary. The main thing is to educate the community regarding the product that you're selling, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, for example, if you're a photo album printer, it's a great idea to do some education on the importance of having various products, the importance of a good photo album, you know, the ideas behind the design and the layout of the album, as opposed to just slapping it together where it's just full pictures on each page. Actually creating, you know, collages, duotones, things like that. You know, that is a great type of educational segment that we can do, which will really help, you know, sell your product, build awareness for your product in really that soft sell way.
Right. Absolutely. So kind of exciting. There's a lot of stuff going on. We're going to have a lot more information about this and these promotional opportunities on the website. So you'll be able to head over there and really kind of get a breakdown of costs and what it all involves and what we would need from you to be able to get all these things to happen.
Right.
But like we said, it's October 24th through the 27th when it all happens. We need to, you know, kind of get information from sponsors early. And we are going to do something that if our people, the sponsors that come on board before the 1st they will be getting a discount. So this way, we can get this done up to our standards. We're anal retentive, as I'm sure a lot of you people know by now, and the stuff has to be right. I would rather than just not do it at all. So
exactly.
We definitely want. So we're going to give you kind of a discount just for getting in early, right?
That's right. So, all right, Joe, I think it's time to wrap it.
I think we do.
So we want to thank everybody again for listening. If you haven't already, we'd really love for you to go subscribe to the show over there on iTunes. That would be really, really helpful for us. If you're interested, if you've been listening to the audio for a while, definitely check out the video. We definitely try to provide some additional content, some additional information in the video that you're not really getting through the audio. Obviously, the visual.
Absolutely.
So, and the video's still doing good, dude. We're number 10 still.
Wow.
So that's great. And the audio is actually up to number 8.
And that's out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds.
Yeah, there's a lot of photography shows on there. So
it's crazy.
So Joe, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to reach you?
The best way would be through Twitter. You can find me at Joseph Christina, and that's Christina without an H.
Great. And you can connect with me on Twitter. It's at Trevor Current.
Excellent, Trevor. Well, show 71 is in the can. So anyways, great show as always. If you guys have any questions or topics that you'd like discussed on next week's show, send us a message through our website, digitalphotographycafe.com, or you could connect with us through, once again, Twitter. We love Twitter. That's at DPhotoCafe. If you're listening on the go, fear not. Everything that we covered during this week's show can easily be found in our show notes on our website. Once again, keep your questions and comments coming, and we'll talk to you next week.